guys, we're back and it's Tuesday and we're looking at multiplying our decimals, right? So my first thing that I'm going to do is my estimate. So I'm going to round this to 8 times 90, okay? And it looks like it's big, but I know that I'm going to have a 0 at the end. So I'm putting my 0 and my 1s, and I'm thinking here. So I'm going to kind of draw a box around this. What is 8 times 9? 8 times 9 is going to give me 72. So my answer should be somewhere here around 720. Okay, so again, it looks big. It's not. You can do this. Okay, so when we do that, and remember, I also want to go back to our estimate because remember, this is going to be lower than what it probably will be because we took off this 3/10 and we rounded down here. So remember, that's part of groups. So let's do the actual multiplication. So I'm going to start here. 3 times 1 gives me 3. Whoops, man, hold on a second. 3 times 1 gives me 3. 3 times 0 gives me 0. 3 times 9 gives me 27. Okay. Now when I start with my 8, I'm going to do this in green. My 8, we moved over a space, so I need to put my 0 as a placeholder. Okay. And notice that I switched. Sorry, I did this without talking. I switched and I put the 8.3, so 8 and 3/10 on the bottom because there's only 2 digits here, which means I'm going to have 2 things to add together here instead of keeping this on the bottom because that would be 3 things that I'd be adding. Okay. Either way, it will work. You'll end up with the same answer. I just want a faster way. So 8 times 1 gives me 8. 8 times 0 gives me 0. 8 times 9 gives me 72. Okay, so it looks big, but you got it. And notice I'm lining each of these up. So remember we talked about you might want to use graph paper to help, especially when we get into longer problems. Now I'm going to add. I'm going to start on the right. And notice I'm ignoring the decimals at this point, just treating it the same as a multiplication problem. Okay, so 3 plus 0 is 3. 0 plus 8 is 8. 7 plus 0 is 7. 2 plus 2 is 4. And this is my 7. Here's where the decimal comes into play. So remember, I look after the decimal point, and there are 2 spaces. So I start behind, and I move it over. So I should have 747 and 83 hundredths. Okay, so our next one is talking about our integer subtraction, right? And so just a reminder, we do our keep change opposite, which is because we use our add the opposite, okay? So, and if I'm looking here, it's like I have 53, and then I'm going to take away the 19 that I owe. Okay, so I have to think about that. So this is almost 20 that I'm going to be taking away from what I owe, right? So I know that, okay, so if I'm taking away what I owe, it's almost like saying I get to keep that money, okay? So like I owe it, but now I don't owe it anymore. So I'm going to get to keep it. So this is like adding $20 to my 53. So my answer should be somewhere around 73. So let's do the actual math and find out. So this stays the same. I'm going to put my KCO above that. Remember, that just helps me. This, like we talked about in class. Okay, so this one's going to stay 53. My change, my subtraction, I'm trying to get it neater, becomes an addition. And then the opposite of negative 19 is positive 19. So see, that's what happens because now it's just like adding that together. Okay, so then this is the same. If I have a positive plus a positive, that's like when you were younger and you guys were doing that. So I just do this as my addition problem. So 3 plus 9 is 12, carry my 1. 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So my final answer is 72. Okay, the other way that I would have done this, because I told you I like a faster way, I would have rounded this up to 20, which would have put 2 more 10s here. So that'd be 73. And then when I rounded it up, that was only 1 more. I would be taking away 1 from the 1s because I rounded it up. So if it was 73, then I'd take 1 away and I'd end up at 72. Okay. Okay, we're back to our regular subtraction of fractions. Notice on this one, we do not have improper fractions. This one here is almost 1, and I'm taking a half away, right? My 1 whole would be 7 over 7. So I almost have a whole. So this should be close to 1/2 as my final answer. The problem on this problem here is that 2 is not a factor of 7. So I'm going to round it up because this is going to be the smaller. I'm going to turn this into 14ths because I'm looking for my least common multiple. Right? So when I look down 7's column and I look down 2's column, the first number I come to that's in both. So that's going to be 14. Okay, I'm going to keep that as subtraction. And in order for me to have gotten there, I did 7 times 2. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top. And over here, I did times 7. So I'm going to do the same thing to the top. When I do that, 2 times 6 gives me 12. And 7 times 1, or 1 times 7, gives me 7, right? Because this is the same thing. It's just a larger version. We're scaling up. And then on this one, I keep my denominator the same. And I do 12 minus 7, and I end up with 5. 5 is an odd number. 14 is an even number. I cannot do 5 times any number to equal 14. So that's my simplest terms. Okay, so I have my mixed number multiplication. My estimate for this, 6 1/9 is going to be closer to 6, right? Because I'm after. And then 5 2/4 is like 5 1/2. So I'm going to actually round this up to 6. So then I'm going to do 6 times 6. So I should get 36. So now remember, I rounded down and I rounded up. So my answer should be somewhere in that ballpark. But let's do the actual work. Okay, so multiplying mixed numbers, we need improper fractions. I need to do so I have to convert, okay? Denominator times my whole. 9 times 6 is 54, plus 1 is 55. All that over 9. Times, I turned the light back on. Sorry, guys, I couldn't do it. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2 is 22 over 4. Okay. Now I just multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. So I'm going to do that down here. 9 times 4 is 36. My 55 times 22 goes this way. Right? And so I'm going to do 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. So hopefully you can see that. And then I'm going to put my 0 when I start on this 2. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. And I'm going to add them. 0, 1, 2, 1. So it looks big. You got this. You can do it. 1,210 split into groups of 36. Okay, so I know right away that okay, so I'm going to use kind of like what I know to get me in the ballpark, okay? So I'm going to round this 36 up to 40. If I do 40, and I'm going to do this over here, so let me do it in green so you see what I'm doing. I'm rounding my 36 to 40, okay? If I do 40 times 3, I get 120, right? Because I did my 4 times 3, I got my 12, and here's my 0. I put it there. Oh, let me turn off the light. Okay, sorry. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad because it's with the shadow, right? Okay, so I have my 4 times 3 would give me 12, but I did 40 times 3 gives me 120, right? Because I have it there. Well, because I want 1,210, I'm going to do times 30. Once I put my 0 here, I do that on this part. So this tells me, the reason I'm saying this, guys, is because I know that this is going to be 30 something for my 36. Okay, so I know right away that I'm going to kind of try because this is going to give me 1210. So it's going to give me around 30. Now, because I rounded up, so I know that I'm going to be closer to that. So it's probably going to be closer to the 30 than it is to the 40. But we're going to start there. So my first part, this is the problem I'm solving. And don't freak out. You can do this, right? When you guys see division, you guys get all worried right away. And there's not a good reason to. Okay, so let's take a look at how we said that we were thinking about 30 right? So if I'm going to take a look, so I'm going to start on this and I'm going to go like this. So I know for a fact that if I have my 36 and I'm looking, if I have one item, I can't make a group of 36. 12 items, I cannot make a group of 36. 121, I should be able to. So let's put our 3 here, knowing that. So I'm going to move over here to see what would that be. 6 times 3 gives me 18. Carry my 1. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. So I have 108. Okay. So let's take a look. So when I do that, and I put that below, remember I subtract. If I have 1, I can't take 8 away. So this becomes 1. 11 minus 8 is 3. And this is a 1. So I have 13 left over. So I know that was the right number of groups. Then I'm going to bring down my 0. Now, take a look. When I did 3 groups of 36, I got 108. When I had 121, I subtracted. So I'm just going to add on to this to see how many would 4 groups be. Does that make sense what I'm doing, guys? Because remember, we're making our groups. So instead of doing 36 times 4, I'm just taking my answer from my 3 and adding one more group. Okay. So when I add it, 8 plus 6 is 4, carry my 1. It's 14, sorry. So 4, carry my 1. This is 4, and I have 1. Well, 144 is bigger than 130. So I'm going to put a big X through it. So I have to go with my 3 again, right? And we said that's what we were thinking, that it was going to be closer to the 30. And I already know that 36 times 3 is 108. And I'm going to subtract. If I have 0, I cannot take 8 away. So this becomes a 2. 10 minus 8 is 2. This was a 3. That became a 2. So I have 22 left. So I'm going to do 33. I'm going to move over here. This is, well, let me put it here. 22 over 36. Because remember, we're going to take, this was that. Whatever my remainder is, I'm going to put over this. So I'm going to move this over. Okay, so when I did that, I did this on purpose because we need lowest terms. I see there's a 2 here and a 6 here. Both are even. So I'm going to start with 2 and splitting each of those, right? I'm going to divide by 2. So I'm going to write this below so we work down. 33 stays the same because I'm going to keep that. 2 times what number gives me 22? Hopefully you got 11, right? And then I'm going to do 2 times what number gives me 36, and it's going to be 18. Or I can do the actual division, 36 divided into 2 groups, right? So I could do that. I just know it's 18. 11 is a prime number, which means 1 and 11 are the only factors, and I cannot do 11 times anything to equal that. So here is my final answer. Remember, we'll keep working on this. Let me know if you have any questions.